and welcome to another video, my fluff chucking chums. Hope everybody's well. We're going to tie the Humongous Hero. It's my version of the Humongous. It was introduced to me quite some time ago by Dave Downey. It's a fly that I use a lot. We're going to begin by putting on the chain bead eye. Now I tie these on the underside of the hook. I found that it helps the fly travel the right way up. If you tie the bead eyes on the top, the fly tends to turn upside down. I'm going to work the thread around the bead in a figure of 8 fashion just to fix it into place. It doesn't have to be too tight, just as long as it's in place, that's all you need. Next we're going to take a fairly generous plume of black marabou. I normally like to take off around about 1.5 inches, 2 inches from the feather itself. Remove any excess from the end of the feather and offer it up just behind the beads, and we're going to tie that down. We're not going to go all the way back just yet, just do about 3-4 millimeters of touch and turns just to try and keep it neat. Next up we're going to take our tail flash, which in this case is Dave Downey's Definite Advantage range, the silver and gold. I really do like this, it lends itself very well to this fly. I'm going to take about 4 or 5 strands and tie them in on either side. As you will notice when we're tying these materials in, we're not going all the way down to the bend of the hook quite yet. This is to try and keep the bulk down on the pattern and keep it as even as possible. So next up we're going to take our silver wire. You want to take a length of about 3-4 inches of wire, and we're going to tie that in where we finished off tying in the tail flash. It's at this point we can now start taking the thread down towards the bend of the hook just to keep everything nice and neat. And as always with my tailed flies, I like to put a wrap or two of thread just underneath the tail just to keep it away from the gape of the hook. Now it's time just to tidy this tail up. I like the tail to be around about 3 times the length of the hook shank. Next up we're going to take our fritz material, which is 6mm metallic blob. This one's from Celtic Blob Company. I take around about 2-3 inches of this, clean the core off, and then just tie it in at the back of the hook. And take the thread all the way back up to just behind the bead eyes. At this point we're going to take the fritz material in nice touch and turns away from ourselves, all the way back up and stop just behind the bead eyes. Don't forget to brush those fibres back with every turn as you go, just keeps everything nice and neat. Once you're happy with that, just bring your thread over the top, a couple of turns just to catch the material in. Now just bring in your scissors and trim away the waist fritz there. Next up we're going to introduce the cock grizzle hackle. I like to use quite a big hackle on this fly, which makes it a little bit different from the normal Humongous. I do like a lot of movement, and this works particularly well for me. I always like to offer the feather up to the fly so I know what type of length the hackle is going to be. I'm going to strip away what I don't need at the thick end of the feather, expose the stem. Then we're going to clip that away and we're going to tie this in just behind the bead eye. Secure the feather with a couple of thread turns, and then we're going to start palmering the fly. I like to put 2 turns down just behind the bead eye first to make some volume, and then I'm going to go down the pattern in fairly open turns about 3 to 4 times. Try brushing the fibres back a little bit as you go, just to keep everything uniform. You want everything facing towards the rear of the fly. Don't worry at this point, it always looks very messy. It is a messy fly anyway, to be honest. It's that way by design. It fishes exceptionally well that way. When you reach the bottom, we're going to trap in the cock hackle with the silver wire that you tied in earlier, and we're going to work that up in open turns between the hackle until we reach the back of the bead eye. When we get there, take a few thread turns and just secure that silver wire in. Carefully stroke everything back and prepare to tie in. What we're going to do is pull all the fibres back so everything's facing towards the rear of the hook, and put a few thread turns down again just to keep everything in place. At this point we can also take what's remaining of the cock hackle and just trim that away carefully, as close to the hook shank as you can. Once you're happy with everything, we can take our dubbing. I'm going to use some silver holographic ice dub from Hairline, and this basically is going to form the head of the fly. Keeps everything nice and neat, and also gives a lovely reflective effect just behind the bead eyes. Offer up a fairly generous amount. When you're dubbing this onto the thread, there's no need to go too tight, because you'll see as we approach the end of the fly here, we're going to brush it out. Again, to give that lovely shaggy effect which makes the fly so effective. Once you're happy with the dubbing, we're going to pull the fibres back once again, put a few turns behind the back of the head. This will keep the fibres back and also tidy up the head area there. And you can work it through the head figure of 8 as well, just to cover up any thread. From here we're going to tie in a few hitches just to finish the fly off. I don't use a whip finish tool, as you probably can tell from some of my other videos. I prefer to just use my fingers and just hitch. So once that's secure, we're just going to trim that away, and that's the fly almost finished. What I do like to do, this fly does fish best for me when it's very messy, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to take my Velcro brush, I'm going to brush out all of the dubbing from the front, and also run it through the fibres of the cock hackle as well. If you haven't watched some of my fishing videos, if you have a look back, this fly features quite heavily. I've caught a lot of fish on it. I do call it the Hummy hero because on those difficult days it has pulled fish out of the bag. And it is a testament to the fact that not all flies have to be super pretty to catch trout. It is a fact that sometimes the messiest flies can be the most productive. So there's the finished fly for you. I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe, and you'll be notified of all future content. Thank you very much again, and take very good care of yourselves.